The 2000 election was known to be a very controversial election, even though it was right before such a huge defining moment like 9/11. Bill Clinton's presidency was coming to an end with the controversy regarding his relations with Monica Lewinsky. Two new candidates had emerged to go against each other in this election. George W. Bush was the nominee for the Republican Party, and Al Gore was the nominee for the Democratic Party. There were many other candidates running for the Republican Party. John McCain and Alan Keyes were presidential candidates for the Republican Party. And as for the Democratic Party, the only alternative to former Vice President Al Gore was Bill Bradley. In the end, however, they were completely overshadowed by Bush and Al Gore. A major third party in this election was the Green Party, having Ralph Nader as presidential candidate. Closing in on Election Day, one major problem that Gore was facing was the negative association people had with him and Clinton, as he served as his vice president throughout Clinton's whole presidency. The election took place in November 7th of 2000, and both presidents had basically almost tied, but it all came down to Florida. Gore was just 4 electoral votes from 270, being at 266, whereas Bush was at 246. It took a while to determine the results, but the election was first called for Gore, as he had a very slight margin, but then Bush started to take the lead. As he won by such a slim margin, there had to be a mandatory recount. As the recount progressed, the votes that Bush had over Al Gore had shrunken significantly. Lots of different questions came up in regards to how the votes were counted, and speculation of some votes being lost. Hanging Chads, for example, was when the vote was stamped on the ballot through only one hole. People speculated that some votes could have fallen off, making the count inaccurate, therefore, which to them delegitimized the election. People from both parties went out to protest, as both Bush and Gore took matters to the court, although eventually Bush would be determined to be the winner of the election and the 43rd President of the United States. This would upset many Al Gore voters, so they continued to protest in D.C. One thing that was so special about this election was that even if Al Gore had won the popular vote, he still lost the electoral vote, being the 4th time that this happened in American history. This would bring light to the Democratic Party's idea of removing the Electoral College, as some states would be represented more than others electorally. Some people went as far as to say that Nader spoiled the election, considering had he not ran, the very few votes that went to him in Florida would have gone to Gore, as both candidates vouched for more progressive ideals. This would have presumably given Gore more than enough votes so he could win the state of Florida, therefore winning the election. Bush would go on to be inaugurated on January 20th of 2001 with his running mate Dick Cheney as vice president, and would be re-elected in 2004, an election which he won the popular vote, serving 2 times as president in a very hectic time, having to deal with major events such as 9/11, Iraq War, Hurricane Katrina, and the global financial meltdown of 2008. Bush's early decisions into presidency, such as his reaction to 9/11 and his decision to start the Iraq War, may have, by most of the American people, been seen as one of the best possible solutions, but as his presidency progressed, his approval rating plummeted, especially in his second term as he had one of the lowest approval ratings in modern presidential history.